Hello, my name is Leila, and I'm the founder of Dietitian Your Way, a dietitian network empowering dietitians and nourishing communities. Today, we're speaking to Lorena. Lorena specializes in the multicultural aspects of diabetes self management education and is an expert in developing culturally and ethnically oriented nutrition and diabetes education materials. So excited to have you on with us today, Lorena, because I think you have so much experience and just so much uniqueness as well to your platform that's going to be so helpful for our dietetics community. So I appreciate you hopping on with us today to talk a little bit about your platform and about your path on becoming a dietitian.
Glad to be here, Leda. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so just to begin with, tell me a little bit about how you began and why did you want to become a dietitian?
Well, at first, I didn't want to become a dietitian. I wanted to be a doctor,
Okay.
doctor of medicine. That was my goal when I first arrived here in the United States. I am Colombian, and more specifically, I am from the Caribbean coast, from the Atlantic. Just to kind of give you a little bit of context, Colombia is the only country in South America that has two coasts. So we have the Atlantic coast and we also have the Pacific coast. I am from the Atlantic coast. When I first came to the United States, I spoke English. I was very fortunate to have attended an American school throughout my entire life. I graduated from high school in Colombia, so I spoke English, and I graduated with both an American diploma as
Wow.
well as a Colombian diploma. I started college here in the United States after graduating, and I wanted to be a medical doctor. However, I was always interested in food and nutrition. So I took a class because it was a personal interest and I loved it. I thought it was so interesting to learn about food and about nutrition. So that changed my entire life. And it was still in the science, it was
Mhm.
still health. I still had to take chemistry.
Yeah.
I still had to take
Crazy
biology.
courses. Hmm.
And it did not feel that I had strayed away from my original goal to remain in the health field. And I was always on a diet. I have
Yeah.
to say, even when I was in Colombia, I was always on a diet.
Wow.
So I always wanted that food health connection. So it just felt perfectly um, in line with what I wanted to do.
I love it. I guess, is there a dietitian field in Colombia?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's pretty
Yes.
cool. Is there similarities in how we practice here and over there?
Well, since I am familiar because I have gone back to Colombia, I have friends that are diabetes educators, and I have actually presented in Colombia, and I have
Wow.
worked with pharma in Colombia. They are much more strict when it comes to medical nutrition therapy. Very, very strict. As a matter of fact, I recorded a webinar yesterday, and I have also recorded webinars for our Mexican colleagues. And when it comes to portion, when it comes to diabetes management, they are really very strict when it comes to therapeutic diets.
And then as far as your experience goes, do you find that it's a little bit, I guess, a combination of both like what's being taught there and then what we do here, or do you do
Yes,
both?
absolutely. Like I said yesterday, I recorded part of my program, Breaking the Cultural Code. I was doing the Colombian
Okay.
session, and what I did was I showed the Colombian plate method,
That's
which
interesting.
is similar
Yeah.
to the choose my plate.
Yes.
And I was showing the similarities as of the
Oh, wow.
Colombian plate method to the American plate method. I have worked with my colleagues in Mexico, and we have worked with the Mexican plate method. So yeah,
I
there's
love it. Tell me a little bit why you think, I mean, I'm obviously an advocate, but why do you think it's so important that we are culturally attuned to these different cultures when we're dietitians? What is the importance for the communities? What is the importance for dietitians to know about this?
the reason is that we live in a society here in the United States that we have so many different Hispanics from different Hispanic subgroups. It is important for all of us, including Hispanic dietitians. It is impossible to learn about every single group, but
Yeah.
we understand that as we have more non communicable diseases and more chronic conditions, and we have such a that food unite us all,
Hmm.
and the importance that regardless of where we are in the acculturation spectrum, whether we arrived in this country yesterday
Hmm.
or we are first generation.
Hmm.
In my case, I am foreign born and foreign raised. In your case, you are a first generation
Yeah.
American of Hispanic ancestry. We still have a attachment to the food, the cultural foods.
Yes.
Whether it's once in a while, whether it's every day, there is still an attachment to those
Yes.
foods. So they have an integral part of our lives.
Yes.
And also culture, which encompasses health beliefs and practices.
Of course.
So when we know that as a health professional, we can then connect a little bit better with our patients.
Yes.
And by doing so, we can help to optimize their health goals.
Yes.
And when we don't know, then there may be a little bit of a disconnect. So if we understand that this person may use a certain treatment to manage the high cholesterol levels, and we ask the right questions to elicit that answer, we
Correct.
might be able to either support that person or perhaps say, do you know that that treatment may hinder the medication that you're taking or may be contraindicated, or simply it may do nothing.
Yeah.
It may be important for that person
Yeah.
to continue doing it.
Yes.
So that makes a big difference when we are aware or of those practices. The same thing with food. We may be able to understand that a certain cooking method, we may need to help that person to modify that cooking method. But if we have no idea about
Right.
that cooking method, then we may not understand why that blood glucose level continues to be elevated. And then we may just continue to increase that insulin.
Right.
We may be increasing that medication because we are not aware of what is occurring at home. So
Yes.
that's why I believe that understanding culture is paramount for the health professional.
Yeah, I think there's so much work to do in the medical field, not just with dietitians, right? We're talking about nurses and doctors and physicians because how many times too, have we had patients who come to us and unfortunately they're being misled and having misgiven misinformation. Um, and making them feel like their culture is something to be ashamed of, or something that just doesn't isn't going to be for their health, right? And I think it just falls on deaf ears, because you can't tell somebody, not to eat tortillas, right? For example, it's really big for Central Americans, and it's going to fall on deaf ears because it's not going to be practical for them. I think the information that you're giving out today, hopefully it falls on all of our ears, dietitian ears, so that we can try to help enforce and help engage people, and help meet people where they're at, because like you said, there's tons of different cultures out there, and there's a lot to learn. So
Yeah.
the more that we
And
can
I
learn and
also,
engage, the better we can take care of our customers, our patients, our clients.
yeah. And I also want to say that just because a healthcare professional is Hispanic does not mean that this individual knows every other Hispanic subgroup.
Correct.
Um, just because I am Colombian
Correct.
does not make me an expert in Costa Rican
Correct.
culture or Mexican or Venezuelan, etc. I may be able to speak the language because I am a native speaker, but I still don't know all the colloquialism of different subgroups or meals or culture. So, when when I created Breaking the Cultural Code, which was bringing the culture of different countries, I had to look for experts that were familiar with each culture. And even then, each individual had to also research their own countries.
Hmm.
Because let's take Mexico, for example. If I born and raised in Mexico City, I may not know a lot about Merida because Mexico is such a
Yes.
rich country in culture
Yeah.
that there are 9 distinct
Right.
regions and cultures and foods and music that just reducing Mexico to just
One country.
several meals
Right.
and foods is doing zero justice to the richness and vastness of the rich culture of Mexico.
Even for Nicaragua, actually, the country where my parents are from, my heritage, if you go from one coast to the other coast, it's completely different
Exactly.
cuisines. We have
Exactly.
a gallo pinto, which is pretty popular, but the gallo pinto that's made on what is it? The Atlantic coast, I believe, is more Caribbean. So they use coconut oil, and it gives that nice coconut flavor, right? So even different regions of the same country is
Absolutely.
going to be completely different. Yeah. And their primary
Absolutely.
language is actually English, not Spanish, which is
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. The same thing. Colombia is 8 distinct regions. There are certain fruits that I have never tasted from the Amazon. I have never gone to the Amazon in Colombia.
I didn't
The
know the Amazon
people,
was in Colombia, actually, now that I think about it. That's crazy.
the people are also different, meaning the different ethnic groups in
Mm,
Colombia are distinct.
yeah.
We have more than 70 different indigenous groups in Colombia.
I was just gonna ask about that.
That is the richness of Latin America
Yeah,
throughout. That is, I adore Latin America. I am just fascinated
yeah. I wish
with,
I was like Eva Longoria. Eva Longoria has a show right now on, I think,
yes,
and she's like traveling all through Mexico, just learning
correct,
about the different cuisines
correct,
in Mexico. Oh
correct,
my
correct.
gosh,
I adore Mexico.
sign me up. Yeah.
I adore Mexico. I have been very lucky to have been able to have colleagues, and I have been able to be very lucky to work with La Federación Mexicana de
Nice.
Diabetes and being invited to be a speaker
Wow.
and learn about the culture. So I have a special, special, special place in my heart for Mexico.
So tell me, with that being said, because you've had such an amazing career. I mean, I feel like we could talk for hours about all the things that you've done. Give me some highlights about your career. What are some crazy and cool things that you've been able to experience as a dietitian?
Well, I have been around for many years. I have been very involved in the profession, but if I have to say one thing that really marked my professional life was becoming a certified diabetes care and education specialist, formerly known as certified diabetes educator. So the name was changed a few years ago. I think that's when I can divide my life as a before and after. And being a certified diabetes care and education specialist and being someone who was Hispanic, those two things being in that arena made, and living in the Northeast made me realize that there weren't that many people that were involved that were Hispanic, and that their specialty was diabetes education, and that there was paucity in the literature about individuals that were not Mexican, educational materials that were created for persons that were not Mexican, which in many ways it did make sense because 60% or more of the population that is Hispanic is Mexican.
Mhm.
But then 35% of the population that is Hispanic is not Mexican. So I felt, what is out there for that population that it's not Mexican, a population like me? Every time that I did research, everything was Mexicans or Hispanics.
Right.
And then I was trying to look for non-Mexican Hispanics. So what was happening for them? So then I would find, if it was in Haines, it was Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, and Cubans. And then somewhere out there,
Yeah.
it was South Americans and Central Americans.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to find a Salvadorian or a Guatemalan, they're out there lumped into a
Right.
Central American or a South American. Well, there's a major difference between a Colombian or a Venezuelan and a Uruguayan or a Chilean,
Right.
and certainly much different than an Argentinian. So to put us all together into one group and say, South Americans, the prevalence of type 2 diabetes is 7% or 6% at that time. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Or to say all Hispanics, the prevalence of diabetes, and I'm talking about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
6%. And I'm saying, how can you put
So
9
much.
Spanish-speaking countries in South America and say that our prevalence of type 2 diabetes is this? This makes zero sense.
Yeah.
And then Hispanics became all together into this group when they are different races, ethnicities within Latin America in general. That didn't make much sense to me. Educational materials didn't make much sense to me. So I figured I have to start creating my own educational materials.
Amazing.
And that's how everything began. I began to say the things that I'm saying to you, and I started to create educational materials, and I started to speak about it. And then I was pretty much the only one at the time that I started putting educational materials together. And then my husband said to me, you have so much, you could, write a book.
Nice.
And that's when I reached out to the American Diabetes Association. And I said, you don't have anything on
Wow.
non-Mexicans. You barely have anything on Mexicans. And I said, it's very difficult to publish a book. No one is going to. And the second I sent that, literally the next day, someone from the editing department reached out to me, signing me up for the book.
Go you. Yes.
So, so
Wow.
that's when my first book was born. And they went ahead with my title. They went ahead with my idea that it had to be published in English and Spanish. They went ahead with pretty much everything.
Amazing.
Then I,
What year was this, if you don't mind me asking?
2003, 20
Very
years ago.
okay. Wow. You're definitely a trailblazer for sure for
So then
Latinos
I
in
started
dietetics.
working with the diabetes DPG and writing a column about food and culture. I felt that was very important to bring culture. And then I became known for food and culture.
Love
Food
it.
and culture became if you want somebody to talk about food and culture and Hispanic health, talk to Lorena. And then I started reading more about Hispanic health, becoming more immersed in Hispanic health. And that became, I wanted to learn more about the major Hispanic subgroups. And I wanted to become more attached to anything and everything that was related to culture and the different foods and health beliefs of the largest Hispanic groups, and connected to everything that was diabetes, culture, and health. And little by little, I started being called by different groups that I heard you speak before. I liked
Amazing.
your presentation. Can you speak for us? Can you speak for us? Can you speak for us? Brands started reaching out for me to speak on behalf of them. And then from there, it starts snowballing. This person hears me at this event, then this
Wow.
person invites me for this event. The second book came about, the Academy reached out to me, and then the second book was published. And then then you establish relationships. And then the third book was published. The third book did very
Amazing.
well. And then they asked me, can you write the second edition of the book? It has done very well.
Wow.
I just wrote the second edition of the book, and it will be published next year, I believe.
Nice. What is a book called?
I always forget the title, so I have to turn around. It's called Tips, Tools, and Activities, the 15-minute consultation, tips, tools, and activities to make your nutrition consultation great. But we decided to call it something else, so I don't
Okay.
remember what the
We'll have
title
to
is.
wait, I guess, till 2024 to
But
see.
it's on the website, and it's going to be called something else, something a little shorter.
Okay.
And it's going to be published by the Academy.
Love it. You've done so much great work for us. I mean, it's amazing how much you've accomplished. I feel like every time I talk to you, I learn something completely different about what you've done. But I love it because we need this. We need this in our culture. We need this in the dietetics community, and I think the work that you're doing is fascinating.
I think it's about getting involved, working a lot, um, finding something that you're passionate about, and saying yes to as many projects as you can, and always doing an excellent job.
Yeah, giving your best.
I think that's what it is. I am also the food editor for Diabetes Self Management magazine,
Wow. Tell
and
me more. Keep going. Tell me everything you got going
and
on.
also the on the editorial board for AADE in Practice, which is a peer-reviewed journal for the Association of Diabetes the Association of Diabetes Care and Education Specialist. I am always looking for authors in the area of nutrition and lifestyle for the magazine.
The magazine is called what again?
I am the department editor for the food and lifestyle, which is food and exercise, food, nutrition and exercise.
I love it. It's very nice. So let's focus in on your business currently. Tell me, let's go through the Profile on Dietitian Your Way. Let's go through the course that you have coming out for dietitians to get more acquainted with cultures. But yes, everything that you've done, I mean, it's like just hearing it, I mean, it's amazing, but I feel overwhelmed. Like I'm just like, wow, how did you accomplish all this? Like what's your secret to being able to accomplish all of this?
No secret. Like I said before, there are many Hispanic dietitians now that I see that are very involved, and that's wonderful. To see that they are enthusiastically involved.
Yeah.
Look at you. You have Dietitian Your Way.
Thank
That
you.
never existed
Yeah.
when 20 years ago,
Yeah.
10 years ago, did not exist. I see many other Hispanic dietitians that are breaking into areas that are non-traditional.
Mhm.
And I think that that is really, really wonderful that they are doing that they are breaking away from non-traditional roles in nutrition and dietetics.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that. It's good
Yeah.
to see that they are doing that they are working very hard. The difference is that I started earlier, and probably in another 20 years, you will see other dietitians that are going to
Mhm.
be doing other things too. And
Yep.
that's just it. Some people start earlier, and then there are more people that will follow, and that's the way that it's supposed to be.
I think
You
so too
know,
is that you're definitely a trailblazer, right? Because when the position didn't exist, you created it for yourself. You saw the need and you went after it and you
correct,
created it for yourself.
correct. And other people will see the need in other areas that do not exist. Social media did not exist when those things were occurring. So I didn't have social media
Yeah. Social
when
media has
those
been
things.
such a powerful engine for things like this, right? Because,
Yeah, yeah.
eh
At the time, it was just people were developing websites.
yeah,
That was like the breaking ground. I
yeah,
still remember going to Fancy and people were using their website, talking about how to have your own website. And then it was Twitter, and everybody was just using Twitter, and Twitter was it.
yeah.
So now we have all these different things. And I remember when TikTok became it, which
Mhm,
was during the pandemic,
mhm,
when people started becoming much and much familiar. So things become new, and people adopt
mhm.
certain things. And then there might be things that will come out that you may decide that those are not the things you may decide to use in the future, because there might be other things
Yeah,
that will come out that you may not have the time to do.
right.
Or you will do it and then decide this no longer serves me. And then
Yeah,
you move into another direction. And
yeah,
that is totally okay,
yeah.
to do.
Yeah, I think for dietitians, a great thing is that we can pivot because our field provides us,
Absolutely.
yeah, so many different aspects. We can be in the media, we can write books, we can create courses, we can do private practice, we can be a clinical dietitian. There's so many avenues. It's the greatest thing about our career is that there's a plethora of things. If we get bored one year with one thing, well, we can start a different thing, right? Um,
Correct.
so it's
Correct.
pretty cool.
And I also want to say that if you start something and after a year or two, that no longer fulfills you, move in another direction. Give
Yeah.
it your all, but if it no longer serves you, you don't have to be there.
And what would be your advice to people who are wondering if this is something that serves them or doesn't serve them, or when is a good moment to say, okay, I think I've had enough and I think I need to move on to a different, part of dietetics? What do you think would be a good advice for people who are wondering if they're in the right position or the right part of our field?
If it's not making money for you, that's one way to know. If
Okay.
it's not making money for a while, and you have tried to do several things and it's just not making money for you, and if you are miserable, if you feel that you're running on
Yeah.
empty and nothing that you have tried, um, truly tried,
Yeah.
is not moving the needle for you,
Yeah.
and you feel truly empty, then it's time to start making plans to move in another direction. I never left a job without having another job
Hmm.
planned for me. But if you start to feel that things are not going in the right direction, then start to plan for an exit strategy.
Okay. It's great advice. I think a lot of us sometimes, because I know I've been there where I have been in positions where they drive me nuts and it's miserable. And I think, for our generation and younger generations too, it's more like, we kind of get pressured from different, external stimuli of, this is what we should be doing. This is what we need to do. Right. But I think, we kind of have to take a few steps back and kind of, look around and see what are some things that we want to venture into, right? Without any kind of pressures from external stimuli. Um, and I think that could be a little bit hard for a lot of people, right?
Yeah,
If they feel like, the safety net of having, a full-time job, but yet they want to do recipe analysis or content creation, right? I think that's a lot of times people feel like they need to do one thing or another. And so I can definitely see, the struggle there for a lot of younger generations for sure.
yeah. I could see when it's difficult if you have children, if you
Yep, that
need
too.
health insurance.
Yep.
Those things are hard.
But it's
Um,
like you said, you kind of have to plan it out and have a plan so you feel prepared to take that leap.
Correct.
Yeah, great
Absolutely.
advice. And let's look at what you got going on Dietitian Your Way, and let's dive deep into the cultural code, which I'm pretty excited to hear more about. So this is Lorena's page on Dietitian Your Way. And so what services do you offer? So I know you have courses and you do a lot, as we mentioned earlier. Do you do one-on-ones?
I
Do you
do. I still love one-on-one. I love groups, but I do still do it. And however, I limit my practice just for pre-diabetes, diabetes, metabolic syndrome. That's
Okay,
pretty much it. I'm licensed in New York and in Florida. I do take insurance,
awesome.
um, and that's pretty much it for the conditions that I see. I don't see any other medical conditions.
Gotcha.
Diabetes is my life.
Yeah, you're
Um,
very passionate about that,
oh,
definitely.
very much so.
Mhm.
Very much so, yes. And then, as you mentioned, this is a course. It's on demand for dietitians, uh, diet technicians, and diabetes educators. And this is for Hispanics and non-Hispanics. And the reason that I built this course. When you can check on it, you will see all the testimonials. It's really a great, great course. You have about a year and a half to take it, so you can take it on your own time. It's approved for an ethics CPE activity is 15 CEUs.
Wow, amazing.
It's really to learn how to counsel your Hispanic patients with confidence. So, what is it that it's special about this particular course? If you want to learn about your Hispanic patient from the 6 largest Hispanic subgroups in the United States, so your Hispanic patient walks in the door and says, I had a mame shake and I have diabetes. Can I still have it? And now you are thinking, what the heck is mame? And you're trying to Google it, but you have no idea how to even Google mame. So you are dumbfounded because you have no idea what it is. You don't know how it's prepared, nothing. And so this is the course for you. If you want to know what questions to ask, if you want to know all about what are the right questions to ask, how do you put a meal plan together,
Wow.
and if you want to know what's the difference between foods from Guatemala and foods from El Salvador, then you have Diabetes Educator from El Salvador that it's talking about the different foods from El Salvador. You have a dietitian and diabetes educator from El Salvador that it's talking about the different foods. So here they are, all
Wow.
the different dietitians from El Salvador, from Guatemala, from Mexico, from Puerto Rico, from the Dominican Republic, and Cuba.
Nice.
And click to see exactly what they're going to be talking about. They're going to be talking about how to do a cross-cultural assessment, how to elicit information about their health beliefs and practices, how to give a class, whether it's one-on-one or a class. And there you have all these different testimonials. You have
Wow.
resources, you have culinary demonstrations, you have a recipe for each of the most traditional foods of each of the countries.
I love it.
So it's really a very, very nice session. You can go back and take a look of any of the different countries. So you have a patient from El Salvador, you want to know what are the typical foods, you can go back to it. You have a patient from Cuba, you
Love it.
want to know what are, so if you're a dietetic student, it's only $79. It's
Amazing.
a steal. So why? Because I want all the students that are going to be the registered dietitians of the future, I
Yes.
want them to be prepared for those cross-cultural encounters.
I love it.
And the dietitians, I want them to be ready too. So if they have a patient that is from the Dominican Republic, but they have only seen patients from El Salvador and Guatemala, and now what if they tell them, oh, so when you have tortillas, and that patient says, tortillas? I don't need tortillas. I'm not
Mhm.
Mexican. So now what are you going to do? Do you know the difference between a meal from the Dominican Republic and a meal from Mexico
Right.
or from Guatemala? So those are the oh my God moments that as a dietitian, you need to know.
Right.
And you need to have those resources. So that's the
I
reason
love
why I
it.
put this program together.
Yeah. I mean, even tortillas are different. Tortillas in Nicaragua are completely different than tortillas in Mexico. Completely different. They're like twice the size in Nicaragua. That's amazing. I love, love, love this. And I think I was actually wondering, have you tried to advertise this or give it to the MSCI programs for their students to learn from,
Which program did you
like
say?
just MSCI programs or dietetic internships?
No, I have not.
Yeah, this would be so great because I think I mean, it's what we need. I think if they can go out already prepared, from the get-go and just know what they um, a little bit of a culture and be a little bit more acclimated and understand these cultures, and when they step out into their dietetic internships or the MSCI programs or as just dietitians, they're already prepared. They have some background, they have some knowledge. And I mean, I definitely didn't get this knowledge in school. That was like 10 years ago, but I'm hoping I'm hoping that they are. And if not, I think this would be a great resource to have for all MSCI programs. I feel like it should be like part of their contracts of like, okay, we got to have some cultural information here as part of the DI programs.
That's interesting.
I think it should.
Yeah, I think that that is something definitely for me to think about. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. This is where our country is moving towards, right? It's a mesh of different cultures, and
Yeah,
so it's pretty
yeah,
important for us to, as professionals, to be able to educate patients, even if it's not from our
exactly.
specific culture.
Exactly. No, I agree with you. Thank you for mentioning it to me.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to mention about your business, about breaking the cultural code, any events or webinars? Are you going to be at
Well,
Fancy?
yes, I'm going to be at Fancy um, in Denver, and I'm going to have a booth. And I'm going to be certainly talking about breaking the cultural code. So I'm very excited. It's going to be the first time
Right.
that I am going to have a booth. So I know that I am going to be um, hopefully chatting with many, many dietitians. And I also created educational tools. So I'm going to be also disseminating that. I have created measuring cups. I
Ooh.
did that many, many years ago. I haven't talked about them, but I created them, I would say, close to about maybe 15 years ago,
Mhm.
I would say. And these are measuring cups that I mostly created for people with diabetes.
Mhm.
And on the outside of the cups, in English and in Spanish, there are the names of most common foods
Oh,
with the
nice.
carbohydrate of the
Okay.
foods for people that are managing their blood glucose,
I
and they
love
need
it.
to know the carbohydrate of the food. So instead of going and looking for the carbohydrate of the foods,
You already know.
you already know because it's on the cup.
Very clever.
And also the exchanges, if they're doing exchanges,
Mhm.
and also the calories are of the food are right there as well.
Okay.
So if someone is, let's say, is going to have rice and they're using the 1 cup measure,
Mhm.
then it would have 240 calories and 45 grams of carbs. If they're
Nice.
using the half a cup, it would say that it has about 120
Right.
calories, and also it would have about 22 grams of carbs. So if
Nice.
they're counting carbs, or if they're counting calories, or if they're doing exchanges,
Right.
everything is
It
going
will
to
say
be
it.
on the cup.
Love it. Love it. That's so clever because usually, yeah, I send patients to use the measuring cups, but if they had that, it'd be so much simpler. They wouldn't even have to,
Exactly.
yeah. That's
Exactly.
really, really smart. So you're
Very,
gonna have that at your booth to
yes,
show? Okay.
yes, to show. And then, of course, if they want to order, they will have to order it. The cups are in the, um, I have two companies that sell the cups. So they
Okay.
will order it from the company.
Nice. Very nice. I love it. What's your most favorite thing? I'm very curious. What's your most favorite thing that you've done as a dietitian in your experience? The most funnest, favorite thing that you've experienced?
Let's see.
It's kind of hard to nail down.
What's the most fun? I think the most writing. I write a lot. I
Mhm.
write content, but I wouldn't call that fun. Writing is not fun. It's fun when it's done and
Yeah.
you have your book. That part is fun, but the actual process of writing is torturous.
Yeah.
Um, so the end product is exhilarating,
Okay.
but not fun. Giving presentations is fun. I do enjoy presenting. I do enjoy speaking.
Okay.
I think that I know that people hate it. They find it to be uh, tormenting, but I enjoy speaking. I
Yeah.
have always
I do
enjoyed.
too, actually. Yeah. I do too. It is torturous sometimes, though, but
Uh,
overall,
no, I do like it. I do
it's
like
good.
it. Yeah.
So, giving presentations and the exhilarating process of already having the book in your hand, the 2 most
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think so. Giving presentations and when individuals that you're presenting to
Mhm.
get the information and they feel that information was helpful and now they can do something
Yeah.
positive with that
Yeah.
information, that is extremely rewarding.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's what's kept me as a dietitian for this long, is that rewarding piece where they feel
Yeah,
alleviated,
like, oh my
like
gosh, I didn't know this, and now I'm going to be able to do this with this information.
yeah.
That is very rewarding.
And they live their life freely because a lot of the times we get patients who feel
Yeah, oh
bombarded
my
and so
gosh,
stressed.
like they got it, like they never knew
Yeah.
this, and now I'm going to worry less
Yeah.
because now I understand
Yep.
this. I'm
Yep.
going to worry less.
Yep.
So yeah, that part is important.
I love it. I love everything that you have to offer. I love the fact that you guys have put this great CEU product, the Breaking the Cultural Code together. I'm excited to see you at Fancy. I'll be there as well. I finally get to see all my
Oh, you
peers.
are. How
Yeah, I
wonderful.
get to see all my peers in person, which is going to be awesome. Any last words that you want to mention?
No, just become involved at the, I would say, city level or state level with your organization. I believe that is extremely important. If your voice needs to be heard, and if you feel like things need to change, then you need to change it.
Yeah. Yes.
um, you cannot expect that things are going to change if you are not the voice to start making those changes.
Very
So
empowering.
that's the reason why it is important to be an active participant in different organizations when you want to see that change, and then encourage others to do the same.
Yeah.
And whatever job you do, be as excellent in that job as possible, and knock on all the doors, knock on every single
Great
door.
advice.
If you want to write a book, then find a publisher.
I love
If
it.
you want something, if you see that, oh, this person is doing blank, whatever it is that person is doing, ask that person, how did you do this? Most likely, someone will tell you how they achieve that.
I love it.
And if that person doesn't want to share it, find someone else that has done it, or um, and find a mentor, someone who has done it, and then ask to be a mentee and
Yes.
say, can you share how you accomplished whatever that is?
Yes.
And most of the time, people will do it. So don't be shy about doing that.
I love it. Making connections. And I think for a lot of us, I was a dietitian for like 10 years, or I am a dietitian for 10 years. And, I will say that I was not an active participant for the most of my career. And when I decided to be an active participant, then I saw things changing. So I have to say that your advice is right on the ball, because if you're not an active participant, you're not going to see change, and you're going to stay in the same position or the same things that you're doing, unless you create that change for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then sometimes I would say that older dietitians will probably be the right individuals because they have gone through many of the experiences and they are willing to be mentors.
Yeah. Yeah. But the problem is that, where do we find these mentors? And that's one of the reasons why I created Dietitian Your Way, was because I would love to have a central location. I mean, I have a central location now, to where we can find these connections and make these connections with dietitians from different fields. And like you said, dietitians who have been in the game for 20, 30 years, who are now in a position to mentor, dietitians who are up and coming. So,
Well, for example, if it's like non-traditional nutrition entrepreneurs, they have many dietitians that have done so many things.
I'm
So
a part of it.
that might be a good place. Dietitian in business and communications,
Mhm.
they also have many
Yep.
dietitians.
Yep.
So
The dietetic
even
practice groups. Yep.
correct. So even if you're a member or know people that are members, they can actually just search on their websites and you can find dietitians that speak, dietitians that write, dietitians that are in the media. And
Connect.
just writing an email and saying, I would like to speak to someone that has an experience in blank area, most likely
Right.
you will
Right.
find someone who will say, I am here.
Yeah, and making those connections are so pivotal, though, in our career, because it's like you said, you have other people who've already gone through these things and who can help, up and coming dietitians figure out whatever it is that they need to figure out in their careers. So it's really, really important, making those networks, making those connections. So I agree. Thank you so much for hopping on. I appreciate all the knowledge and wisdom that you've given us, and all the work that you're doing for our community as well. So important for the dietetics community. And yeah, I applaud you, and I thank you so much. Any last words? I know I said that earlier, but anything else?
I said all my last words.
Okay. All right, Lorena. Well, for everyone who's listening and watching, please like and subscribe on YouTube, or on our podcast, which is streaming on Apple. Thank y'all. Have a good day.
Thank you.